The more you do on your own, the more that you start studying on your own and looking for the answers on your own, you start to see more. And then you can be more scrutinizing of people telling you things on YouTube. A question that we get a lot about the carnivore diet. I'm taking collagen out of these eggs, making dinner right now. But a question that we get a lot is, aren't you worried about high cholesterol? Like every time I see that, I'm like, no, I'm not worried. You know, we've been doing this a year and a half now on the carnivore diet. In the beginning, I was worried about it. We both were, because it was just like uncharted territory and it was scary. We started just watching tons of videos, you know, digging around trying to get as much information about it as possible because of the way that we were taught to believe about high cholesterol. The last time I heard that question, or I read that question, I thought about it and I go, what information do I need to where I feel safe about it? As time has gone by, we picked up more information here and there, and you also question, man, what can we believe? What are we supposed to believe? We were told that high cholesterol is bad, and so it's confusing because it's not like they say, oh, if you're on the carnivore diet, your cholesterol goes up and you'll get bad gas. No, it's if you're on the carnivore diet, your cholesterol goes up, you're gonna die. Like, I was specifically told that because of my cholesterol by our heart doctor and our general practitioner doctor. I don't want to answer that question the same way anymore. Let's take a pause from getting the cholesterol out of my eggs. So we crack the eggs, separate it, and then we get I said cholesterol, the collagen out of the eggs. The number one reason for us why we're not concerned about our high cholesterol is how good we feel. Number one, we feel fantastic. But there are some other reasons for us that we're not concerned about cholesterol. It's basically educating ourselves. So in the 1950s, cholesterol became this villain that was killing everybody. Heart disease was the leading cause of death in the 50s. And then in 1953, Ancel Keys, a scientist, he started publishing studies, and he was linking heart disease to high cholesterol. So he's linking heart disease to high cholesterol. He did this study that was called the 7-country study. He was picking countries that fit his hypothesis. France had a high fat diet content, but they had low instances of heart disease. So there was other countries too but he picked the countries that fit his model. That started the whole cholesterol being really bad and vilifying it. That's when that started. And then in 1961, the American Heart Association recommended lowering saturated fats, and it was all based on those studies that he was doing and the stuff he was publishing about 7 countries, which was very, very flawed. And then in 1984, the NIH, National Institute of Health, I think that's what they are, they endorsed cholesterol lowering protocols. So they were all on board about, hey, high cholesterol is bad cholesterol. So that's how cholesterol became public enemy. It started in the 50s, and it goes all the way up to 84, which really, you know, just everybody was on board then. The research that Ancel Keys did was oversimplified. It was just, oh, high cholesterol, that's what the problem is. It didn't address sugar, inflammation, and smoking. In the 1950s, we started getting more of that stuff. Ancel's research overshadowed sugar, inflammation, smoking. While he influenced the policy, the broader scientific community and organizations and government agencies perpetuated the cholesterol narrative. He did that research and published papers, and like I said, he was cherry picking the things he wanted everything to align with his hypothesis. Ansel Keys wasn't directly tied to corporations. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. The sugar industry funded research to shift the blame to heart disease away from sugar and onto fat and cholesterol. Food companies started creating all that low-fat products loaded with sugar and refined carbohydrates, and that became like our dietary staples. Science now recognizes that cholesterol's role in heart disease is it's not that straightforward. It's very complex and nuanced, because dietary cholesterol has a minimal impact on blood cholesterol for most people, and saturated fat is not as harmful as once believed. The real villains are trans fats and excess sugar. Heart disease risk involves multiple factors, including inflammation, insulin resistance, oxidative stress, and lifestyle habits. They never talk about that. They never talk about those things. It's always just, oh, you got high cholesterol, you got to get a statin. And elevated cholesterol isn't a death sentence. That's a fallacy. HDL cholesterol is protective. Heart disease risk depends on inflammation, triglycerides, and metabolic health more than on cholesterol levels. The fear of high cholesterol stems from flawed, oversimplified research that ignored other critical factors. Modern science shows that focusing on overall metabolic health by avoiding processed foods, sugar, inflammation is far more effective than obsessing over high cholesterol. So that's why we eat the way that we do. Got meat in here right now. Gonna have a bunch of eggs, and we're gonna do that a couple times a day. We feel great, and we know how the history of why high cholesterol, just knowing all that, like digging in and finding the science. And by the way, I've looked up trying to find studies where it shows that cholesterol was responsible for heart attacks, heart disease. Can't find any. There's no evidence whatsoever that proves high cholesterol caused heart attack and killed somebody. That doesn't mean that high cholesterol isn't bad for some people, because there are some people that it could be bad for. And if you cite studies like the Framingham study that started in the 40s and went through the 80s, and I mean it went a long ways, that's a very flawed, that's another study that's super flawed. They had all these people and they followed them for decades, which is awesome, but they didn't, it wasn't a very good controlled science study at all. Like they would self-report, hey, what'd you eat? What have you eat this week? Like they didn't take in the other lifestyle factors like alcohol, smoking, working, not sleeping, like not exercising. They didn't take all that into account. So they try to blame high cholesterol. Whenever it's present, they try to say that that's the cause. But just because something's present doesn't mean it's the cause of it. There was also a study, the whole Honolulu study, where they had these people in Hawaii, a large group of them. Hold on, we gotta flip the steak. Oh, everything's going off right now. Timer. Flip the steak. Stop the eggs. Let's flip the steak real quick. So the Honolulu study, Steph's eating sausage, fat, and that piece of meat. I'm eating this beauty. Steph puts salt and pepper on hers. I put salt. So you guys should look up that Honolulu study. They had, I don't know if it was men over 50 or, in Hawaii the group was, I don't know if the group was over 50, they were older, but they were eating like what would be considered a healthy diet, and they had higher instances of heart disease. So they had low cholesterol and higher instances of heart disease. And there's the biobank in the UK tracked people for decades and decades, and that massive number, like hundreds of thousands. And when I think it was the over 60 group, the ones that had the highest cholesterol had the lowest instances of dementia, heart disease, and cancer, like way healthier. So all the research that I could do with my puny human brain, I have found nothing that proves that the high cholesterol causes heart disease. There's nothing that proves that, not one study at all. So if you've got like a familial thing, I know there's some familial marker, then maybe there's a risk for you. I don't know about that. That's something you'd have to look into, but for most people, the facts are the facts. The food industry vilified cholesterol. They took advantage of that flawed science from Ansel Keys, who was just a scientist wanting to be right, and then they ignored, oh wait, and we started having more leisure jobs in the Industrial Revolution, so we were exercising less, and then we started processing food faster and having more food and using all those processing methods, and people started eating more food, working less physically hard, and smoking and drinking. Everybody was smoking. You could be getting your teeth pulled and a dentist would be smoking. Everybody was smoking. And they didn't even say anything about it. They just made it like, oh, they all had high cholesterol. Yeah. Okay, the one in that study had high cholesterol. And what was high also, they changed that number. They all had high cholesterol. And how many of them, the ones that had problem, died? What else did they do? What was their lifestyle like? They just ignored all of that. They ignored the sugar, processed foods, smoking, and alcohol. So I feel very confident and comfortable with my high cholesterol, knowing all of this, and knowing that I don't smoke cigarettes, I don't smoke, I don't drink alcohol. So, and we don't drink, we don't smoke, we don't have risky lifestyles. We exercise every day. Nothing wrong with our high cholesterol. I would argue is a good thing for us. So if you are in the early stages of this, or any stage of it, and you feel you're scared about the cholesterol, I'm not telling you to, hey, I told you it's okay. I'm telling you, do what I did. Dig into it, because the more you do on your own, the more that you start studying on your own and looking for the answers on your own, you start to see more. And then you can be more scrutinizing of people telling you things on YouTube. That's why I'm not telling you to take my word for it. I'm telling you this is why we feel comfortable, because of how we feel and the research we've done. And we feel comfortable with that. Make yourself feel comfortable by educating yourself and understanding why there's this whole high cholesterol thing. And we know cholesterol is fantastic for us. It's absolutely good for us. And it became a villain. But do your own research, and then, because that will give you more confidence, and you'll be taking your health into your own hands. All right, our meal is getting close to being done. It's going to be high in fats, and it's going to keep my cholesterol at whatever level it needs to be as healthy as I can be. And that's why we are comfortable with our high cholesterol. Enjoy your life.